So sometimes, guys, we also do things that we recover because there are some girls you may feel like this one's out of my league. This one is you can Instagram nowadays you can see Gorilla. This is a high maintenance girl. I'm not saying other girls are low maintenance or whatever, but there are some girls who, if you get a new girl, you don't know whether she's Tobatas Pato or does she want to go to McDonald's or do we have to go to a five-star restaurant? Can you take her to a guest house? Does she want a lodge? Does she want a hotel? So some of these mistakes that we also make as young people, young guys, we put ourselves under financial pressure with the woman that we choose to date. Guys, my name is Bonankau. What up, beautiful people? My name is Dudu Tankau, aka the handsome twin, aka he thinks he's the handsome twin, but your lady's gonna tell you who the handsome twin. But yeah, guys, today we're just gonna talk about us as young boys, man, the mistakes we make, the things we try and do that just derail us from our path. What are some of the mistakes that you think you made personally?
Some of the mistakes that I think I made was when there was a point where I had a job and I was in my business full time. So, once you have a job, you have a stable salary, you have access to money, and I just decided, let me get a car. And only later, after a while, I decided that I want to actually leave this job. It's not working out for me. But the mistake that I had made was that I had now already gotten a car, so I'm committed to paying this car at the bank. I have to pay it off. But the money that I was using to pay this car off was the money that I used to get from my salary. So knowing that I'm leaving this job and going to focus on my business 100% meant that I had to sacrifice the car, meant that now that financial stability that you had from a job is gone. So that means, a lot of times we encourage people to leave their jobs to go pursue their businesses or people who want to do that. And it's not always the right advice because with a job, yes, you do have some sort of stability with the salary and you have access to money. Every month for sure, 30 whenever you're getting your salary. So when you're an entrepreneur, it's not necessarily the same because there's some months where you make a lot of money and then there's some months where you just barely make the money. So I think the mistake that I made was having a job and then immediately getting a car and then only realizing after a while that I actually want to leave this job, and that meant that I was entitled to pay that car, without the salary. So
yeah, guys, these are some of the mistakes that we make as young people. They don't tell us, Hore, the more you earn, you shouldn't really rush to increase your debts, your expenses. That's what we mostly do. When you start earning more, obviously you look to move into a bigger place. Friends, that social life, since the club, since groove, whatever it is. But we make a lot of mistakes on our way, and a lot of times when we feel stuck and stagnant, when we feel like things are not happening, it's a lot has to do with financial, because of the financial mistakes we made. Now they kind of like hold us back or pull us back from trying to excel, like you said, get in the car and then all of a sudden you want to leave your job, but now you can't necessarily leave your job because you've got this big expense that's already, like, when you get a car, you're already on minus 400, 500,000, depending obviously on what car it is. So now we are youngins. Obviously, you want to be in a Beamer, in a Polo GTI, you want to be in something nice, but sometimes the reality is you can't afford it, and you might as well just use that money for now as you're coming up to invest in yourself, and then eventually you'll get the car, because sometimes we just rush to get those things.
And there's no shame in starting small. I used to hear people always say start small or whatever. There's genuinely no shame in starting with a second-hand car and building your way up where you're not in debt and stuff like that. Because a lot of times also people get into debt because you're competing with your friends, or you see your friend maybe drives such a nice car or whatever, and then you want to also get it. But you may not know that your friend, their mom is paying for that car, or their dad, or they come from a better financial situation or better financial background than you. So a lot of times with people, especially gents, with boys, I feel like we
under pressure.
Gents put themselves under pressure financially to look like they are something they are not. Especially if I can give you an example of how many guys do you see in clubs who go and spend money on champagne and bottles and whatnot, where you know that this person doesn't necessarily afford. I'm not saying all people. I know there's gents who have money like that, and that's easy for
people are balling.
But I've seen guys who this guy is using his credit card at a club to buy booze for girls or buy booze for vibe or whatever.
And
it's
they
like,
don't even live with the chicken.
you know, and
Dang.
it's situations of, dude, you bought a bottle of maybe 5, 6 bottles of champagne. Tomorrow you're gonna have, or during the night, you're gonna piss that champagne out. Sorry to say it like that, but you're gonna piss it out and then it's gone, and you've spent 20,000 rand that you just pissed away. You know?
Guys,
So
sometimes we also do, as young guys, we do put ourselves unnecessarily under pressure, because even when we came up as friends, you know, maybe we are 4 or 5, we could buy the court or we can chill as a case. I don't know. As black people, I don't know if it's just black people, but we have this thing of over buying alcohol, over consuming alcohol. Like if it's just the both of us, one bottle can be okay, but now we'll be with the both of us, then we have like 6 bottles. Like it's so unnecessary at times. You know what I mean?
and unhealthy also.
And then obviously unhealthy. So these are some of the small mistakes that we make in our society as young men. We try to look like, I think my mom once told us that, and you know, you try to look like you made it and you haven't even made it yet. So sometimes we just have to reroute that path, you know, go back to the basics, like, you know, especially with debt, guys, like, yo, we have to manage our finances better, because sometimes a lot of people are under debt review. A lot of people, the credit is bad. You know, it doesn't mean you cannot necessarily bounce back from bad credit, but we also have to consciously be aware of the decisions we are making when we choose to spend our money. Like obviously sometimes you're gonna have fun, like you've worked hard, it's the end of the week, you want to go out, but you don't relax, but sometimes we just have to see, man, guys, is this thing really taking us forward or is it taking us back? Like even one of the other choices that we made, we got a shop but the rent was a bit high, you know what I mean? So it now puts you under pressure month end, because the rent is already high, you gotta pay your salaries, then you gotta have money in the business to buy the material, to do all those unexpected costs, you know. So we also have a thing that we don't account for, which is unexpected costs. You know? Rent, most shop we pay about 14,000. 14,000 is a lot. You know, if you have to combine now, you have to put people's salaries, you're almost looking at 50, you know. So sometimes, Rona, as the business owner, you've paid your rent, you've paid your people, you've paid your suppliers, but you don't have money when at the end of it. So,
nothing there for yourself.
so we have to also maneuver now to find new ways to also bring us the income, or risk not stranded. Because sometimes if one job goes, or one contract, one tender, one what, if it dries up, then it dries up our income, and then it also puts us off balance.
Yeah. So especially with guys, man, there's a lot of money mistakes that we are pushed into, or I wouldn't say maybe pushed into, but you put yourself under that pressure. For example, something like lobola, you know, mahadi, getting married. There's a lot of guys who have gotten married when they were not financially ready.
Yeah.
But just because they were under pressure with family. Lenyala le, when are you getting married? You know, there's that pressure also with black families where when are you getting married? And people also don't understand if for example you have to pay mahadi or lobola for 30, 50 grand, and you don't necessarily have that money set aside, or like you don't have that money, you know, easily access to that money, where now you put yourself in a position or under pressure where you went to go take out a loan to get married. And there's a lot of guys who've done stuff like that. And especially with credit, don't go take out credit for something that's not gonna bring, you know, a financial return. That's not gonna be, you know, that's not gonna bring you money. So I think a lot of times with black people, black gents, black families, we get pressured into getting married, and people don't talk about how mahadi or lobola is such a big commitment, you know, from a guy also.
And now we're at that age where family is asking, hey guys, are you getting married? When are you getting married? So it's like, hey, you know, and now you obviously in a way still trying to find yourself, you know. So I think also in a way we have to, sometimes we just have to say like, look, financially I'm not ready to make this commitment, or we have to find other ways. Obviously there are other ways to get married, not just marriage, but real life challenges. Like maybe somebody just not dropped out, but you just left school, or you just started working. Now you're already looking into making these big financial commitments, like, you know, getting a car, you know, even these small cell phone contracts. Yeah, it may look small. Now you have to get an iPhone, what, you're paying at least 1.2, and you guys like 36 months. So you can imagine 1.2 times 36 months. Sometimes we don't I think we need to educate ourselves better ka financial literacy, because
Yeah.
sometimes Lorona we feel like we're not progressing in life, but it's only because of what we do.
You've made those financial commitments that are like very tough. And like he said, for example, if you have a job and you're working and okay, sharp, let's say you call a 40,000 or 50, whatever the case may be. You start, you get a bond, you now 25 years in debt, you go get a nice car, maybe, plus guys don't like starting small. You went to get maybe a BMW, what, you're paying 10, 12, maybe another 2 extra for insurance.
Rent.
No, the bond, I guess. And then the lifestyle of going to clubs and popping. So there's literally guys who go out and they live hand to mouth because of the decisions they've made. You earn a lot of money, but because of your decisions, you're in a point where you live hand to mouth, And there's even with owning things like cars, there's unexpected costs. Your tires could burst, you get into an accident, there's insurance, there's so much financial there's so much money that a car can take for you that you don't that they don't tell you. You just go to a dealership and you think, okay, I'll be paying 9,000 a month for this car, but you're not paying 9,000. There's also petrol on top of that you have to pay. There's so much that you pay.
So we have to make better decisions as young people. Like sometimes get on reaching young on in these positions, that hurt us.
What's the youngest age like to be married?
The youngest age, Mona, hey, back in the days, I think like I'm not sure what is the youngest age people can get married, but I feel like whenever you're ready, sometimes people also like the family can help you. If your family can help you pay or whatever, then I guess you can
But
get
if your
married.
family helps you pay, it doesn't mean you are ready.
Not necessary. And yeah, even it's even such a thing, guys. When ideally do we get married? Do we get married when we've found that job and we started working and now we're on our feet financially, we've got a little bit of coins, or do we wait? And if you wait now, you get to that point where your family is like, "Hey, mona, kante plan ya lona ke eng, o nyala leng?" You know what I mean? Have you found the girl? Are you still in the field? You also have to see where a guy as a guy. Like, are you ready mentally? Because sometimes a lot of people get married and then get divorced because people also mentally they were not ready. They still wanted to play a bit, but they also committed themselves a bit. So
even as a gent, don't date baddies, man. Don't date. Sometimes we don't have these convos amongst ourselves as gents. Don't date girls you can't afford. There's girls that, dude, she's an expense. She's like a car. Every month, that you're spending about maybe 15 grand on this girl, usaboni, without seeing. So sometimes with a gent, also don't date with who has like very high expenses. It's more or less the same thing. So don't date girls you can't afford.
I think even another thing is a lot of young guys, they play father figure roles
too early.
Too early. Like you're playing a father figure role, you're playing a husband role, where you've adopted now this person and you taking care of their bills all the time. So sometimes, guys, we also do things that we recover because there are some girls you may feel like, this one's out of my league. This one is you can Instagram nowadays, you can see Horela. This is a high maintenance girl. I'm not saying other girls are low maintenance or whatever, but there are some girls who, if you get a new girl, you don't know whether she or does she want to go to McDonald's or do we have to go to
Five-star restaurant?
A 5-star restaurant. Can you take her to a guest house? Does she want a lodge? Does she want a hotel? So some of these mistakes that we also make as young people, young guys, we put ourselves under financial pressure with the woman that we choose to be with.
Yeah. So some girls, like you said, are very high expense. If you throw things like lobola on top of how much money this girl is taking from you, and now you have to marry into that, and even with black tax and black families, like something that they don't tell you is don't also marry into a family that's going to be very dependent on you as the guy. Like now they'll see you as the guy as like, okay, this is our way out. Or when the guy now at your girlfriend's family, you have to be renovating the houses, or now every time you have to, Mang needs to go to school, they have to call you to make a plan. So sometimes those type of things are financially draining on a man, and that's how guys become depressed and want to commit suicide and stuff. And when you think about it, it's like you made the choice as the guy. You saw the red flags. You saw that this is not the type of person I can afford, and you still went to that. Even with friends, there's some friends that you cannot afford to be with because they have very high standards, or not necessarily high standards, but they have very high appetite of spending money, and they can, you know.
Yeah, then when they don't know where you're standing, it's like, hey boy, I already bottle is a two. You know that time you left with that last
Eh, boy, are
2K or
Cape Town,
whatever.
boy, you know, there's
Yeah.
those friends that also like they come from wealthy families, and I've seen it in the past where there's friends where this guy is young, we're in varsity, his dad already bought him like a BM, he has a flat, he has all of this, and you now as a gent are trying to keep up with that friend, but you don't come from that same type of family where the money is easy like that, you know.
I think also Kerona as Majita, we don't talk because sometimes our egos, you're trying to look like you made it, you're trying to look like the man, but sometimes you are going through some tough times,
Yeah.
and it's just better to speak,
Yeah,
right
speak
ahead,
up.
just to say, hey boy, this is where I'm at. I can't do this. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So a lot of us guys sometimes we put ourselves in those positions because we don't talk. We don't say what is currently happening right now. We always try to look like we've made it. We always try to look like we're at the top. So, but even in today's world now, as a guy, also you can't just sit back and be like, life is so tough for me and financially, what. You just gotta make a plan now. You just also gotta be able to get other streams of income. You know what I mean? Use some of your talents, use some of your gifts to get you. If you were sometimes you were dope with sports in high school, and you can go back to your high school and be a coach, or you can go coach another team, or some things like that where you can get
Personal
yourself
trainer,
personal trainer. You can get yourself an extra income. So we also have to look at how do we go about getting extra income, because already financially we are at the I don't want to say we're at the losing end, but our back is against the wall. So we also have to try and diverse ourselves, not to be dependent on
one salary or
one income or
yeah.
one salary or whatever. We have to be broad, and we have to do online surveys. Now you can get paid for the survey online. There's so many things you can do that you can get paid for. So you have to also be open minded to how do I make money at this day and age. What's the way forward? Or you can't
Yeah.
just sit back and be like, I don't have money, life is tough.
And I mean, the average millionaire has how many? 6 incomes. So as a person, you want to also be financially comfortable. You want to be, now there's issues of VAT increases. Like, it's something that's gonna happen, and we can't really bitch and moan about it and cry about it. We can, but it's not going to help us. So you want to get yourself into a financial position where those type of things, yes, they will affect you, but not like the next person, not like the person who it's going to be devastating for them for this VAT increase. So you got to get yourself financially into a point where some of these things that happen, especially politically and things that are happening, whatever, outside, they will affect you in some way because you're part of society in that specific country or whatever. But you need to get yourself into a financial position where these things don't hurt you like that.
Yeah.
So some people, it devastates them when there's petrol increase and all these things. They are not nice for us to. I mean, the other day we were looking for a packet of toppers used to be like 5-7 rand. Now it's about
19 rand.
19
Topas
bucks.
ke 20 rand
Now toppers is like 20 bucks. Bread. How much was bread? Bread used to be like 7 rand, and now it's like 20 rand. So things are going up like a lot.
Yeah.
So you gotta also match those things. When these expenses go up and your cost of living
Gotta
goes
get the
up,
coins
you
up,
gotta
bro.
get the money up so that these things don't devastate you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like you said, you need to exploit your talents. You need to figure out from this specific gift that you were given by God or the specific talent, how can you maximize it and make money in other ways? And another thing I wanted to talk about was also don't put yourself in financial pressure by chasing money where you end up making mistakes or you fall victim to scams or you
Fraud.
start fraud, you start doing illegal things now because you want to get money, because now there's opportunities for you to go to jail. You can go to
Yeah.
jail, and because you were just so hungry to get money, somebody said, hey dude, let's go commit this
quick cash.
fraud thing quickly, and then you end up getting in shit. So with certain situations, don't put yourself under pressure financially by doing illegal things, because you're gonna get yourself in trouble and you're gonna go to jail. So
Yeah. So guys, what's also beautiful is sometimes on your way up, even if you're struggling, whatever it is, peace of mind, just being able to know that you good. Like not now some people they know anytime hawks can come in or whatever,
when they see
SARS,
cops, they
whatever.
panic.
You know what I mean? Just because also we try to look like we made it early, like it really takes a long time to make money. That's what I figure. And the older you get, the more you realize, hey, it's not gonna happen overnight. So sometimes it is good to say, by this age, I should be a millionaire or whatever, but life does not work like that. Everything doesn't go according to the plan that you've set. You know what I mean? So along the way, you lose. People getting scammed, people fall
Going to
victims
jail.
into fraud. We have the COVID where people lost jobs. So Lorna, as young guys, don't be in such a rush to make money that you now you start thinking of illegal things. Like one of your homies say, "Hey boy, arrows a heist, mona, you just be the driver, don't worry." Hey mona, yay.
It's the easiest things like that that get you in trouble, and now you're in jail, and maybe you're selling drugs and stuff like that. So, guys, like we gotta make better financial decisions, and don't be afraid to be seen struggling, because what social media has done is that it makes it look like everything is fancy and glamorous, but people do struggle, man. People do struggle to maybe get their cars paid or their bond or things like that. And
Behind
people,
the
I don't
scenes
understand
money.
why we don't talk about things like that as people to say, dude, but there's a time where I struggled, and there's a time where you couldn't pay this and that, and it's okay, because it's like you're not the only person, you're not the last person who's going to go through things like that. But we need to have these conversations so that people know how to avoid these things, or know how to deal with them when they face them, to say, okay, but I've heard this guy speak about, hey, there's a time where he couldn't pay his bond, and this is what he did, or he went to get an extra income, or he downgraded to a smaller place so that he could afford it. So even downgrading is not a bad thing. Sometimes downgrading is the best thing that you can do, because you also don't want to live at a point where you're like financially choking. Like
Hand to mouth. That's you pay the bills and it's done.
There's people who are like that. They earn a lot of money, 60, 70, 80,000, but they're living hand to mouth because their financial decisions cost them a lot of money. Where the money comes in, it's paid all the bills, you're left with 1,000 rand or whatever, 2,000 rand. It's not enough to sustain you as a person. And that's how people that's how you wonder sometimes, oh, why is this guy, he's so rich, why did he commit suicide? But it's like you don't know what happened.
And the family will be on Sabe, Mona, where's the money? Aren't you rich by now? Whatever. And I remember some time where, when you look at your debt, man, you've got this phone contract, you've got this got telecom, you've got this at your car, you've got the house, you've got all these other expenses. And when you actually look at it, it's like, damn, by the time month end comes, this money is going to be in the account, and all those bills take that money, and you're left with nothing. And you kind of, 30 days is a long day. It is a long time. So some of the mistakes, Kirona, we make, like we constantly put ourselves. People will go and take out a credit or loan for pots, or for something that is
taking
also
a child to school or something.
Yeah, because that one, we understand. That one is also like, I don't have the money now, but I need my child to go to school.
Sometimes, but if we talk about credit and what credit is for, credit is for things that make you money. It's for going to borrow money for something that will make you money, and that's what we were not taught about credit in school and stuff like that.
But imagine if for example, a lady didn't really have the money and she has to take us to university. Maybe she has to go through the route of banca,
and that's how people get in debt.
And sometimes it is a way to survive because of the way the economy and everything is structured. But there is ways to kind of beat that. Because you can't be there your whole life. You know what I mean? At a certain point in your life, you gotta say, nah, I gotta start bringing in more money. I gotta start doing this. I gotta change this.
Saving money is important. Saving money is also very important. It's something that people don't really talk about, but it's important to save money for a rainy day. Because they say if you're really financially free, you have money for the next 6 to 12 months, that your expenses, anything goes wrong, you lose your job or whatever, this money will carry you for the next maybe 12 to 6 months.
It's not easy to have 6 months ahead. Obviously, it's not
easy, but that's what the topic is about today. With let's learn to cut back on unnecessary spending and unnecessary expenses. Let's focus our money and our energy and our credit, if ever, on things that bring a huge financial return for us. Don't go take out a loan to get to go lobola and get married. Rather wait. If you have to get married by age 39, 40, so be it. Also, your partner will have to understand the type of financial situation you're in and the type of dreams and plans you have. So if she really loves you and she's really into you like that, she'll wait for you. So my things for today is don't go take out loans and stuff to get married. Don't go take out unnecessary, money to buy things that you cannot afford and try and impress girls and try and impress people that you can't afford, or try and impress friends.
Just to wrap it up, guys, Bafetu, keep your head up. It's tough out here, but it's not the end of the world. Just keep your head up, stay focused. Try find other ways to make money. Let's try to maneuver. Let's talk to each other. It's not always about connection. Sometimes it's about courage. Just have the courage to go and ask, go drop your CV, go talk to this guy, go do this,
pursue something.
put yourself in a better place. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
me as your friend or as your brother, whatever, I can't make you rich. I can help you for 1 month, but I can't pay your bills. I can't do this for you. So we just have to find ways just to keep going, guys. Let's not put our pressure on ourselves. Mjolo, date the right people. Just be. Life is not meant to be perfect and smooth,
Sunshine
but
and
we
roses, yeah.
will make it, guys. Retlava sharp. We'll catch the coins. We'll get the money, guys.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
one last thing from me also, guys, don't be entitled to other people's money. Don't be counting your friend's pockets or your mom's pockets or your girlfriend or boyfriend's pockets thinking it's your money. At the end of the day, even if you have a guy ladies, even if you have a guy who gives you money every month and whatever, that might not necessarily be. Don't look at that as an income or as a way of living where you must also go do things for yourself. We also have a lot of girls who need to be doing things for themselves, making their own money, having their own independence, so that they don't rely on men. Because a lot of times, girls also are in abusive relationships with guys they can't leave because you're depending on this guy financially. He's paying your school, he's paying your house, he's paying your car, he's got you like this, and that's how a lot of girls are trapped. So ladies, I would also encourage you guys to go make your own money, stand on your own feet so that there's no man in the world that can come and make himself feel like he's bigger than you or whatever. So yeah, that's what I wanted to leave you guys with.
Thank you for watching
Thank you guys
episode
for watching.
3. Yeah, we're gonna keep them
We'll catch you
coming.
guys on the next episode, and we hope that you guys learned something great from today's episode.
What do we say? We are
Peace
here.
out.